Oh, here we go.
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 Oh, here we
Here we
go.
go.
Oh, here we go.
Look.
Wow. Okay. All right. What's up? Welcome back to the revamped of the Oh, Here We Go podcast.
I am Lacey Claire Rogers.
And I'm Stephanie Parsley.
And yeah. I don't know. I feel like we should do this.
We're okay. I wasn't gonna bring the podcast back. I was doing it and then Black Lives Matter, pandemic, it's just this year has been so much that I just was like, I don't want to focus on my podcast anymore when everything else is so negative, and I just I couldn't do it. And now this year is kind of winding down a little bit. Shit is still fucked. It's fine, but I want my best friend on it with me. I want you here.
I'm a brand new addition, baby. 2021 coming in strong.
I just think that it's time. We do stuff all the time, and we want a platform to talk about it on. We go through some shit, and we do cool stuff.
I feel like Stephanie and I are very growth oriented. We prioritize growth, and we're super curious people, which leads us into asking so many questions about so many different things, getting ourselves into new experiences, and we just learn so much. I mean, there's some really cool experiences, but there's also a lot of hardships we face, but that's how we grow. So we want to talk about that. We want that podcast to be all about our curiosities, all about our experiences, all about our lessons. So this is Oh, Here We Go.
So this year's been so hard. We kind of want to, with our new plans with this podcast are, every week we want to try every week to do something where, we feel like each week our lives are changing drastically. Something happens. And, my friends have said, they're you need to start writing down the stuff that happens in your life because, every week it's just different. So, we want to start bringing on people that, are just influencing in our lives and talk
informative.
To them. Yeah. And wait, did you say informative?
Yeah.
So, yes. So that's just kind of what we want to do, and our plans are just kind of unfolding around that. We have we have a really cool guest that we're gonna bring on today because this year really has been so much with relationships. So much growth, uncomfortable growth has happened. And this guest speaker that we have on today is Melissa Fabello. And she has a PhD in human sexuality. And she's going to be discussing the differences between open relationships and polyamory. Because we have a
little story.
We have a fun situation that has happened. But,
before we bring on the guest speaker, we kind of want to update you on our lives and talk a little bit about our experiences this year in our relationships. And we also kind of want to talk about energy between two people. We want to talk about connections with those deeper connections you have with somebody.
Twin flames.
Yeah, we really want to talk about twin flames because that is a newer concept that I have been learning about, and I have been feeling it. It is so interesting to me. So later on, I want to talk to our guest speaker about twin flames.
I haven't even told her that we're going to ask her about that.
Yeah,
we're going into this really blindly.
Yeah. So I guess let's just start off. Stephanie, do you want to talk a little bit about where you've been this year in your personal relationships, romantically, and your friendships?
Yes. So I feel
here we go.
So many, I just get asked this quite a bit, even still, I was obviously engaged and starting off this year engaged and thought that, I was going to be married, if not this past May, next year, pandemic hit and kind of postponed it, but we ended up not working out. And it's something that, like, I still don't really understand what happened. Just because it was so sudden and fast, and it just was out of nowhere. Even the small things that were brought to my attention after the fact were still not things that you would... they aren't things that you would leave on. So it's just like, I'm still just like, what? Like, whiplash. But to not go into detail, because that person's mental health and mine are, like, obviously super important. I just more so, I love I'm so happy that it happened. Like, I'm so thankful that I'm not in that anymore. And, like, no, like, disrespect to, like, him or anything, but I just am realizing now, stepping out of it, that I'm wanting, like, a super, like, I want to be in a very passionate relationship. Like, I want to be, if I'm going to marry someone, I want to be, like, like, passionate about them, like, crazy about them, like, and I mean, I would tell this person, like, all the time, like, or not all the time, I think maybe, like, once or twice, I'll calm down. I'm not really, like, we're not, like, really, like, obsessed with each other. And he would be like, oh, that's fine.
It was a good partnership.
It was a good partnership. It was so nice to be in a relationship with someone that loved you so much. Like, I have never been loved like that. Like, wow. And it made sense. It made sense.
Like, textbook made sense.
But I always knew, and I internalized it, and I'd only told, like, maybe a couple people, but I just knew that I was just like, I don't know if I should marry. Like, I was already, like, kind of like, eh. And so it just was, like, not even able to see myself outside looking in. It was just a textbook example of like, two people getting married because they felt like it was, like, safe,
made
the right
sense.
thing to do.
Like, we can have a good life.
Yeah. And so, of course, when this person left, like, I was devastated. I was off social media for, like, 3 weeks, which is, like, sad. That's, like, never happened. I've never experienced pain like that. Like, it was just so much. And I just completely dived head first into therapy. Like, the day they left, I got into therapy, and I've been going twice a week for the past over 4 months. And I have learned so much about myself and been able to, like, basically just, like, shine a light on, like, my behavior and, like, how I respond to people, and also how to respond to people that are different than me. And I haven't been, like, I'm not kidding, I haven't been mad in 4 months. Like, I've been, like, confused at some people, but I haven't been, like, legitimately angry like I used to be. And it's just been, like, a therapy has helped me be, like, just look at people and, like, basically have my hands up, and instead of, like, trying to be like, no, do it this, be like, okay, well, you know. So it's just been, like,
being Stephanie's a friend and seeing her go through therapy, I have seen tremendous growth in her. I mean, I've been friends with Stephanie for about 5 years now, maybe more, and she's about 6 years older than me. And so I've always looked to Stephanie for guidance and would always, like, look to her for just advice or anything like that. But we all have our flaws. I've always loved her, but Stephanie has always been super reactive. You know, I'm the type of person that I take time. I usually get in my shell, and it takes me a while to respond back with how I feel and what I want to do. But Stephanie has always been like on it, like this is how I feel, this is how it needs to be.
Yeah.
And so it's
bad.
good in a lot of ways because in business she gets things done and she gets them done quickly, diligently. But when it comes to emotions, it can be like a little hard for most people. So I have been super proud. It's been amazing as a friend seeing her go through this and experiencing this as a friend. So yeah, therapy's been great.
It's been good. Like, I mean, I've had people even in business and like my friendships and stuff, they've like, just even within the past 4 months, like, have upset me. And I'm just like, okay, well, you know what? That's fine. Like, you're going to respond how you're going to respond. And I'm just going to not let it bother me. And I've never been able to do that. And so I'm thankful for, like, the whole breakup because of that. And, like, I'm also thankful because, like, I've just from the breakup and, like, dating, like, I've been able to experience connections with people that I am so thankful for because I'm able to, it's like I'm getting a second chance and like now I'm like, okay, wait, I almost got married and that was the connection I had. I don't as good and healthy as that connection was, that's not really exactly what I'm looking for. Now I'm like really dating people and like trying to like really like figure out exactly what I want in a partner and like I've just learned that, like, I want, like, a really passionate and, like, intense, like, but, like, healthy relationship. And I'm so glad that I'm just glad, like,
in the moment, it doesn't feel like you're settling because you love that person so much and you're like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
But you do have your doubts, but you think, like, oh, maybe this is what life is giving me. You know, like, maybe this is what I should want, like I should need, but those are judgments for yourself.
Yeah.
And so now, like in retrospect, I mean, I'm almost like speaking for her, but I guess I'm speaking for myself too because I'll get into my relationships in a second. But you look back and you're like, oh, I was settling for myself.
Yeah.
Like, why was I putting the cap on what I deserve or like what I want?
Yeah. Well, also, I live in Arkansas and there's like not a lot of people here, so when he came around I was just like, oh my god, you know. And so like in a sense of like just surface level, yeah, like I was definitely, I don't know, because like I was coming from a relationship where the person like gave me like not that kind of love, you know. And it's like I think it's so important to date a lot of people and to experience good love and bad love and passionate love and whatever other kinds of, like, experience it all so you can find that person that fits that mold of, like, everything. And so, yeah, I mean,
I remember a couple of years ago, you gave me this analogy and I've like always used it.
Oh God.
Every person you date is like a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
And every person you take a puzzle piece with you and you get closer and closer to finishing your puzzle. Like one day you'll find the full puzzle or put together the full puzzle. Because your first relationship, you might like that they're humorous, but got some other like gray areas. And then your next relationship, you might really love that they're spiritual, but they lack in some areas. And so each person you get to interact with, you find characteristics that you like and you learn from that. You take it and you take it to the next one.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I was telling you, like with all your stuff, like I was just like, you know, like you're obviously just went through a breakup too. And I was like, and I've been telling you, I was like, this isn't, like, I love you, but like, this isn't like your husband. Like, you're like, and you shouldn't even want it. I mean, props to everyone that gets married young and like y'all are still together and killing it. Like, great. A lot
props
of us
to
can't.
you.
I just think that you're so young. Like there's so many more people to experience, and like I've grown. Each guy that I date, like even the small ones, like even the little spurts this year, like I've changed so much as a person. Like people, it's not boys change you, people change you. Like, people help you grow and mold, and like you just keep transforming. And so like I feel like personally my little puzzle piece is almost there. It's just like, God damn it, like so close. And I think that I really where you're at is like, you're what, how, 24?
23, almost 24.
Yeah, okay. So like I'm just now realizing all these things, and I'm like almost 30. So like you're way ahead of the game. And yeah, the little analogy, I guess.
It's been really cool because Stephanie is about 6 years older than me, and I feel like she has an opportunity to look into my life and be like, oh, I've already experienced this. And so I've already kind of learned all I need to learn, and I can help Lacey with what I've learned. But also I need to be respectful, because the best way to learn something is going through and learning it yourself.
Yes.
Like, she could be yelling, telling me what to do all day, but I'm not going to listen until I come to it myself.
But I tell you that, I'm like, here's what I think, but you're going to have to just do it on your own. Because, like, you're not going to, no one's going to, like, actually, I don't know. I really have been taking people's advice here lately and just doing what they say. Like, my friend Brittany, when it comes to guys, I'm like, what do I do? She's like, do this. I'm like, and that's exactly what I do. I'm like, I don't fucking know anymore. But, as far as, like, okay, so we went through, well, we're going to touch back on that breakup. I mean, there's things that, like, maybe need to be discussed, like, but like, tell me about what's going on with you.
Woo!
It's 2020.
Yeah, so 2020 has definitely had no survivors, but as hard as this year has been, I mean, I think everybody in my small circle, from my perspective, everybody's been really thankful for how far they've grown and overcame all the obstacles that they've faced this year. So I just recently got out of a relationship, and it was one of the longest relationship I've been in, which was only 1.5 years, and that's not really long. But I remember like a couple years ago, I was like, I just want to be in a relationship for at least over a year so I can really get to know a person. Mm-hmm. And this person, I thought, was it too. It was a true partnership, and it taught me what that really looked like, to basically live with somebody and to have somebody always be there for you and just be truly dedicated to you and love you so much and like give you all of the time and attention. And I've never had that before. I've always dated guys that have never had time for me. Maybe that's a little bit of my daddy issues. So this relationship was new, and I had never experienced a love like this before. And
it was a good love.
It was such a good and healthy and strong love. However, throughout the duration of the relationship, we just weren't meeting each other's every need. And we thought that we could work through that because it just made sense. Like, this is what I should want. I can see, like, kids with you. Like, I can see the house. Like, I can see all of these things. But there are some things that I'm sacrificing for this. Like, we tried so hard. Honestly, it's like really admirable for how hard we fought for it. We were in couples therapy for about 5 months together. Mm-hmm. I've never had a guy that was so dedicated to make this work. Like, most guys I've been with were like, nope. Like, as soon as it gets hard, they dip. And I was like, wow, this person loves me so much, like, that he's not gonna leave. But there's just like some core things that were just different in us. I don't really consider myself to be like a super spiritual person, but at the end of the day, I am. That's how I view the world. That's what excites me. That's what motivates me. That's what I'm super curious about, and I want to grow and learn in that area. And that's not something that really resonated with him. And as much as I tried, I saw like a good guy. I knew he wasn't spiritual to begin with, but he was so amazing. And I know you can have different beliefs and still make it work. Like, I know that's a possibility, and that's what I was trying for. But in the back of my mind, for the duration of our relationship, I wanted a spiritual connection with him so bad. And that's on me for trying to change a person. Like, I mean, that's just me growing and learning as a young girl in her 20s.
Yeah.
You can't go into something knowing that you want to change something about someone. That's not how it should be. And so I think, I mean, I'm a super spiritual person, and it's almost like I had to keep, like, shoving that aside and, like, prolong my growth or kind of hide it. It's not something that I felt comfortable to talk about with him because he didn't really get it. I didn't really feel seen or understood in that area, and it's fine that he doesn't resonate with it, but that's something that was really important to me. And so I kept asking for signs and signs from the universe and my guardian angels, and like I talked to guardian angels, I talked to spirit guides, like, and I was receiving sign after sign after sign.
It was getting to the point where I was like, all right,
dude,
how many more signs you need?
It was
like,
crazy.
It was even on my end. I was like,
yeah,
this is
and I kept ignoring them, and I knew they were signs. I would pray at night for a sign, and then boom, argument, or boom, like something catastrophic, or like boom, I got a message from like the universe. And it wasn't until finally,
and a lot of it was even more concrete too. It was like family, friends, like,
yeah,
just a lot.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I think his family and friends are amazing people.
Yeah.
Like, I have a lot of respect for them, but the energy was always off, and I could not put my finger on it. And I never felt comfortable or myself. I was always super anxious. Like, I was like vibrating. Like, I never felt accepted. And I know that I get in my own head a lot of the times, but I know energy has a lot to do with it. And I just never felt energetically aligned with his friends or his family. And family is huge. Like, that is huge. And that was a big one. Not being fully comfortable with his family, like, really bothered me. And, like, trying to look into the future of what that looked like for me scared me. And so finally, like, one day, my intuition was yelling at me, bitch. Like, yelling, like, Lacey, you have to trust us. You have to let him go. Like, you cannot give him everything that he deserves right now, and that's okay. Like, you have to trust us. Like, you're both amazing people, but you both need different things. And so as hard it was that, as hard as that was, because it's scary to let something so good go, like that, it was textbook, like everything I should want, but there was just those core values, that like passionate depth core values that I was like sacrificing for this, and I just had to take that leap of faith and let go. And I know the only voice from my intuition that I've heard since is you did the right thing.
Yeah.
And it was a clean, respectful,
y'all both
mature breakup.
Yourselves in the relationship to the point where, like, y'all tried to make it work so bad that I think you both are just like, you both saw it through.
Be this hard.
Yeah, and you both were like, okay, it's not working.
Yeah,
and you're both like, it's like the best breakup I've ever seen.
Yeah. I think deep down, I really hope he's doing well. I haven't talked to him. But for some reason, I feel that he's okay. I've been, like, praying for him. I've been, like, sending energy. I've been asking for whoever to take care of him. And for some reason, I just really think that he's doing okay with it, just because deep down, I think we both truly knew that, like, we needed something else. And this was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think he's doing good. I'm so proud of you guys for trying therapy, because at first I was like, y'all already need therapy? Like,
I know, not even a year in.
I mean, like, whenever I was going through my broken engagement of, like, 4 years committing your life to a person, like, I was like, okay, so now all of a sudden, because, like, it was such a sudden thing, like, one day, I was like, okay, well, let's go to therapy. No, it's too late. How is it too late? Like, that wasn't even an option. Like, I wasn't even, or they were like, well, I'm just going to go to therapy with you to end things. And I was just like, well, then you just I'll just go by myself.
I'm not gonna pay for that.
Like, I'm good. Like,
Yeah.
So I'm proud of you guys for doing that. I mean, I think it's great because you both learned so much about each other and about yourselves and like, you'll be able to really apply that in the next relationship for sure.
I definitely want that kind of goofiness and partnership and dedication. Like everything that he was, I'm going to take that puzzle piece and take it to the next, but I'm searching for that deep spiritual connection. Mm-hmm. Like I really want to be seen and understood in that way and like be challenged. Like, that means so much to me. That's what excites me. And I always just like couldn't get there because he was like just so analytical, like just really smart guy that like energy is kind of hard to like, it's a harder concept to like just fully dive in and trust because you're like,
It's the way like
it's hard to explain.
It's weird because I'm like, is it the way like people's brains are? But then I'm like, really smart, intellectual people also get down with stuff like that. So I'm like, maybe it was like the whole like upbringing, like you didn't meet that person in your life as you were younger that got you interested in things like that to open up that like that eye or like that part of your mind to like accepting energy as like what it is and not like a logical explanation.
It's like all based on the person because I thought that I could be that person for him, but it just never resonated. And it doesn't resonate with my sisters as much as I'm excited and passionate about it. It doesn't resonate with them. And they asked me, they were like, were you ever skeptical about any of this? And I was like, no, I was just really curious. I was like, don't you want to know like why things are the way they are and like why the world is the way it is? Like, don't you want to feel connected to something?
Yeah.
But anyways, back to like the relationship thing. It's been really cool to almost Stephanie and I have,
single.
We're single, but even though she was engaged in a longer relationship, I feel like the premise of the relationships were very, very similar. Yes. Like textbook, like safe. We should want this, like partnership.
She would tell me the things that she's going through, and I was like, I just got out of that. You're gonna be fine.
Like the doubts too.
The doubt, like I would, in my like relationship, I would have like. It would be like if I was like really high or something like that and like I'd just be sitting like down and like in my head and I'm like, I don't think that I should be in this relationship. Like I don't think that I should be doing this. Like why am I getting married? Like just like screaming inside, but I never really told anybody about it. I think I told like you and Allison and stuff but then it would go away and like she's like telling me these things now and I was like, look, if you're having these feelings and these voices, like you need to listen because I know it's going to be, breakups are so hard, like, they're devastating, but, like, you're going to be fine. Like, it took me a month and a half, like, and you're doing really well, like, and this was, like, very recent.
I know.
So it's just, like, I don't know, like, that voice, if it's screaming at you, listen.
So, I believe like that's your intuition, and I've been learning a lot about the law of attraction recently, and in that book
I've been told I need to read this book, like literally today someone was like, you need to read that book.
It's an amazing book, the practical law of attraction. It's amazing. Anyways, in the book it was mentioning a part of it was talking about listening to your intuition. And the faster that you listen and act upon your intuition, the stronger and stronger it gets and the more messages you'll receive. So, I mean, for so long, I kept ignoring and not trusting my intuition, like for so long regarding this relationship. And the minute I like trusted it and listened to it, I just heard like, you did the right thing and I'm doing so well. Like, I truly believe like that was my intuition. And the faster that you take like inspired action, like the stronger that voice and trust is going to get and the more messages you'll receive.
Yeah, I feel like I like ever since like this breakup and like even with yours, like even with the stuff you told me today that we can't talk about yet. I just it's like so much has happened for me that I've done for myself just in like 4 months. Like you just like take off. It's like It's like holding you back.
Dude.
You're just like, go.
The universe, God, all they want you to do is just trust them.
Yeah.
And just let go. And the second that you do, like, it just, life will shock you.
It's so, I mean, like, moving to Denver. Well, me. Yeah. Part-time. Like, wait. So what else happened? Okay, wait. I'm going to do mine and then but you just got out of yours.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the things that have already happened for us, like, since just listening to that. But
I mean, you can go ahead. I've learned some things.
I'm just talking about, like, just from, like, listening and, like, getting free from all that, like, it, just, like, the things that have, like, happened, like, my business has been able to really take off, like, I've been able to save so much money, like, I've been able to experience, like, so many connections with people that I'm so thankful for. I'm now expanding my business to not only be here, but also in Denver. Just got approved for an apartment downtown that is insane. And I'm so excited. It's just nice to see that that decision didn't happen and I'm just sitting at home. You know, like, I'm not just, like, sitting and sulking and, like, all that. Like, I had to, like,
pick yourself up.
Yeah. And, like,
I think, I mean, mine has been so recent, but I think one of the main things that I've gotten is peace, clarity, and freedom. Yes. Like, I feel so, like, I can just breathe. I feel lighter. Like, I'm not in my head and just, like, contemplating things and stressed.
I know. I can tell, too, because, like, at one point I was like, you're not really, like, happy anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
they were worried I was going to fall back into depression.
Yeah.
But I'm not focused on dating right now at all. I mean, whatever happens, and I might want to hop back in the saddle, but I really am I want to make 2021 all about my career.
Good.
Like, I just want to dive in and get in alignment, law of attraction. Mark my words now, I'm going to book a role in a movie. So, like, the time that I have poured into other people and their needs and a relationship.
When you're in it, you're like,
I'm wifey.
Like, boom.
And so I'm like, okay, if I take that energy and put it into myself.
Oh my God.
Bitch, like, that's power.
Listen to me.
Huh? Okay.
No, yeah, like, I'm so excited for you, just even based off the news that we've heard lately. Like, I think 2021 is, I want to say it's going to be your year, but we also said that about 2020, so, like, just, I'm really excited.
I'm stronger now, though.
I know, I'm just like, pandemic. But,
you want to talk a little bit about,
what?
Sorry, I cut you off.
It's fine. What were you saying?
Do you want to talk a little bit about twin flames?
Yes, I was gonna kind of get to that because you said you're not really into dating right now. I am. I've been I waited, like, a good amount of time to process and be really sad, and I mean, like, crying all day, every day, sad. Like, I've never actually, like, when people are like, I've cried all day, I'm like, oh, okay. No, like, I legitimately cried all day, all the time. And
it's exhausting.
And I just, like, exhausted myself. And I was just like, it got to the point where I did this 2-week road trip with me and my dog. And all I did was just sit and think and process and everything and, like, listen to music and, like, listen to my thoughts and, like...
Sad piano music, by the way.
Sad piano music. Like, not kidding. And by the end of it, I was just like, what? Like, I'm okay. Like, that was time to be sad. I was talking to my therapist about it, and I was just like, I don't want to, like, sit around and, like, just be sad about somebody. Like, I bring so much to the table when it comes to a relationship. Like, I know what I want. I know what I'm looking for. Like, I'm very self-aware. Like, I'm high functioning. Like, I've got this. Like, I know what to do. And she was like, go and do it. And so, like, had me, like, you know, like some one night stand,
Some
one weekend
flings.
stand, you know, like I've been like really, really interested in the different types of connections I can get with people at this time. And like, it's hard because like, you know, like we're in a pandemic, and like I've even like met this one guy that I'm like interested in, and like he's from Chicago, and like we've like FaceTimed like 100 times, and like it's even like connections like that. Like I just like so thankful because like I get to like
Just have companionship.
yeah, and like I get to like find out more about myself through other people. And like, I mean, there has been a connection that, you know, whenever you started talking about twin flames, I've been like, okay, I can kind of like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, as much as dating is like fun, it's also like weird and hard because like, I mean, I was kind of like running around, dating, whatever.
Honestly, some people can, like, I've gone through phases with flings and one night stands. A couple years ago, I needed that. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to experiment and like sometimes you just need it. And I think there's a bad connotation just because too much of anything can be bad.
Yeah.
And then I've had experiences where one night stands, I mean, I took that person's energy and I was fully sad the next day. But I'm all for like a little fling if you're like mentally in the right
I think
spot.
that's where I was telling you guys too. I was like, I'm not like for like one night stands. I just like want some flings. And honestly, I just wanted to experience people at that point because I was so like self-aware that what I almost got married into was not for me. And I was just like, okay, well, now I'm here to search for what it is that I'm looking for. And so I was in a relationship a while back with someone who like I had this like really intense connection with, and it was passionate, and I always like we ended up breaking up, and like I always thought like
That's that one person.
that's that one person that I was like, damn, like was that like the love of my life? Like fuck. And then lo and behold, I start running around with this guy who, okay, I don't know if it's like, maybe it's coincidental that these people are both musicians. Maybe I just like have like a deep connection with musicians. I don't know if it's like our brain.
It could be a past life thing too.
Ooh. But yeah, I was running around with this guy, and he was awesome, and we'd been friends for a while, and we like hit it off, and it was so good and like intense and like just like what is going on?
Like scary good.
It was like scary.
Huh?
I was like, oh my God, like this is like, I thought this type of connection was so limited to just like one person. And I was like, oh wait, no, this is like a type of connection, not like a person connection, a type of connection. And like we like, I mean, I loved it. Like it was so much fun, and like it was, yeah, and it was good. But it got a little sad ending. I mean, like it's a bummer. This person doesn't really commit. Like he's never committed to anybody, and like he's never been in a relationship. And I think we were getting kind of like serious, not serious,
It was
but
getting to the point of like what are we?
Yeah.
Like, what are we gonna do now?
What are we now? And like, I think he just kind of was like I don't like. I think it like what it went off and did like tour and everything like that, and like I think he just kind of realized like, oh, he's just more of like
a guy that doesn't want to commit to one person.
Yeah, and whenever we saw each other again, he was just like, what about like an open relationship? And I was just like, well, I can't do that, but also don't we have to be in a relationship to open it? Like, it just,
yeah.
Because I know two people that are married and have been married for years, and they are in an open relationship. Well, now I'm learning, because of the guests that we have coming on, that open relationships and polyamory are different. So that's, I can't wait for her to come on because she's going to talk to us all about this. But I just knew that if this person that I was like kind of dating, he kind of had like a lot of communication problems or whatever. And I was like, well, with an open relationship, you have to definitely communicate and you have to set boundaries, and like that
it's like
person,
a lot.
you have to know who's coming into the relationship. And like, it was just so much. So I was just like, it's just stuck with me because I was just like, well, I can't do that. And I think that if I didn't really care about that person, I would have been like, cool, like, well, I'll do an open relationship. I'm going to date a ton of people. So like, you know, it's been a bummer.
To me, I think this person, I mean, to me, I don't think this person really knows what an open relationship is. He may or may not.
Maybe he's spot on, and maybe we're wrong, though.
Yeah.
Like,
but
that's what we're...
With me being out of the situation, to me, it sounds like saying that he wants an open relationship is just an excuse to openly cheat on you.
Yeah.
With no guilt.
I was thinking
like,
it, too. And that's all I was
you
like,
know,
well, I can't really
like,
do that.
This is my girl, but while I'm on tour, I'm going to sleep with this girl, this girl, this girl. But you don't even know about it. But because you have the open relationship label, it's okay.
Yeah. And that's how I was thinking it too, because I was like taking it really personally, and I was just like, damn, like that like stings. Like we had such a deep connection. Like, fuck. I was like, this is the type of connection that
you would do anything for.
Really, you do anything for, and like you look for, and like people like don't find that often. Like like, when we were talking to each other, we'd be, like, this close to each other's faces. Like, it just, like, so, like...
it connected in a deeper way.
Yeah, it was just deep. And so then for him to say that, I was just like, fuck.
Just the one
I was just like, damn it, like, so close. Like, fuck. Like, I really like this. And, like, I mean... that's why, like, when he said that, I was like, maybe I don't understand what an open relationship is. Like, I know that I would never... be able to be in any type of shared relationship, you know, just because like I care so deeply for people, and like also like I'm just not willing to exert, but maybe I don't fucking know.
So my friend Connor Wonders, I've been on his podcast before. I love his podcast. Him and his partner Kelly are super open about, I don't believe they're in an open relationship, but they like bringing a third, like for threesomes, and they're super open about it. And the way
is that not an open relationship?
It could be. I mean, Kelly goes on Bumble and she they openly say that they're looking for a third, and like Kelly and the girl go and have like coffee, and they talk about boundaries and like how they're coming into this sexuality and like the shame that they've experienced. But the way that they've explained it, which I think it's really cool. I am not curious or interested or like I've never craved like an open relationship or having a third or a threesome. Like that's something that I've been curious about. But the way that they explained it was really cool to me. That's one of their sexual fantasies. That's one of their sexual desires, both of them. I've never had that, so I can't really relate to them, but that's one of theirs. And they love each other and trust each other so much that they're like, I'm bringing this into the relationship so we can have some fun together. Like they trust,
see, like that's different.
That's because they trust each other so much. But I think the trust in your situation is a little low.
I know, like I'm just like, and we're still so supportive of each other. We have been friends for so long, and like I really care about him, and I know the feeling's mutual, and we haven't had a conversation about this since I just like, yeah, it's just I'm so confused now on what an open relationship is, and like I think like his reasoning was for not committing to someone is he doesn't like the feeling of being trapped, and I'm like, you can leave anytime you want. Like, I was literally engaged to some dude and he left. So, like, I don't understand the whole trapped feeling. Like, I mean, but I think that's just from coming from a place where you haven't ever committed to even the concept of, like, being trapped. So, like,
acting out of fear.
Yeah. And, like, I think from losing that, I've just been like, God damn it. Like, dating is, like, the worst. But I'm so thankful for that person because, like, he really threw me for a lot of loops, and I was able
taught you
to,
about
like,
that connection.
yeah, and, like, I was able to experience that connection that I thought was, like, so limited to one person in my past that it was, like, no, like, this is, like, a thing that, like, you need, and it's just passion.
It's like, it was validating, or it is validating and comforting to know that, oh my gosh, like, it's freeing too. Like, it's not just with this one person that, like, hurt me in my past. Like, there's people out there that I can find that
Feel
with.
this
It's like
way about.
motivating and it's hopeful.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh.
I'm just like, I'm like, okay, so I felt like really strongly and intensely for this person. Like, that's how I want to feel about the next partner that I get super serious with. If that's not there, no, because I've already done the whole, like, we're safe, like, oh my God, we're a great partner, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, I want that, like, intense, passionate, healthy, I'm crazy about you kind of love. And I'm really happy that I got to experience that. And I was also able to, like, ride the waves and, like I've been through therapy, like, you know, for the past 4 months. So I was able to, like, apply what I had learned in therapy with this person and, like, honestly, with everyone that I'm, like, talking to or interested in or something like that. I'm able to be, like, see how therapy has, like, played such a role, and, like, I'm like, oh, I like it, you know, because I'm just, like, calm. I'm like, okay,
Zen stuff.
Yeah, Zen.
Stephanie before therapy was just like, oh, I just want to be Zen.
I know.
Like, someone teach me how to be Zen.
I know. Now I'm like, okay, like, whatever. Like, I have way too much going on to, like, really try to care about reacting anymore. So it's just, you know, but I'm, like I said, very, very thankful for that. And it also helped me. Dating has helped a lot with getting over, like, with what, you know, happened with my breakup. I mean, so much to the point where, like, I mean, I found out, should I even discuss this?
Why not?
I mean, like, I found out, like, I think the breakup was less me and more so someone else involved, kind of. I mean, like...
like, there was somebody else.
Yeah, like, he started dating someone, like...
immediately
really
after.
Fast. Like, seriously. Facebook official, like... And I truly don't care. Like, I'm just like...
Yeah. You're like, well...
I'm only, like, weirded out because... just, like...
Do you want me to say it?
That girl... I mean, it's just weird because she was in my house having me take boudoir photos of her while talking to him behind my back. So it's just like, that's the only part that I'm like,
why'd you do that?
Why'd you do that? That's a little crazy.
Yeah.
That's the only part where I'm like, I wish that wouldn't have happened because then I would have been real cool with all this. Like, it's just fucking weird. Like, and I remember telling my friends that was like, I think that she's talking to him and she's like, in my house, like, I don't, like, just, or like, she had me take boudoir photos of her in my bed, like, blah, 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 like, my friends were like, no, that'd be crazy. Yeah, but that just adds to this year because anything's possible. Shit, the worst shit happens to me. So I was like, honestly, this makes sense. So, you know, but kind of like tying into, what else do we want to discuss?
Well, I feel so bad that it's been so long and we haven't discussed twin flames.
Oh, yeah.
We never went over, like, the definition of that.
Okay, what is the definition of a twin flame?
So I would have to, like, Google, like, the definition. You can do that right now. But have you heard of the term, like, soulmates, spirit guides?
Yes, I have.
Like, soul contract people. Twin flames is a newer concept that I have been learning about. You can definitely have more than one soulmate, but twin flames are those deeper connections. When you look somebody in the eye and you meet them for the first time, you're like, I've known you for lifetimes. Like, it's just instantly there, easy, and you just feel so comfortable instantly with another person. And twin flames, it's a direct mirror of yourself. So when you look at that person, you see yourself, and that person reminds you of who you truly are and who you want to be. Like, you're so deeply intertwined and connected, and you're just there. Like, you're just, it's you and another person. But a lot of the times twin flames actually split or break up. It's very common for twin flames to separate for a while, for a couple of years, for many different reasons, but it's because
is it a couple years or like a while? Like what?
It really just depends, but they can always find their way back because that connection was so deep. But in the separation period, you are both working on all of the things that you need to work on and growing in different ways. And over time, you're just like raising your vibration. And when your vibration is high and full and where it needs to be for yourself individually, the universe will be like, this is where I want you, and put you back together. So there's usually like a chaser, like the part of the twin, one of the twin flames is the chaser, which I would consider myself to be the chaser.
Wait, what is that?
The person that's like, I want you. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And the ones like I'm not ready. Like, and so this is a newer concept to me, and I've been listening to so many podcasts and like reading about it, and it really, really resonates with me. However, I'm still young, and I'm like, okay, I just want to be careful with exactly what I believe, but I'm also like, you're very smart and intuitive, Lacey. You got to give yourself more credit. But I believe that I have encountered one of my twin flames. It could be a twin flame in this lifetime or one of my past lives, but I definitely believe he is one. There have been so many weird synchronicities with this person and signs, that it has just been so weird to me. And I've just been super careful with like...
You want to talk about those, or like, is it private?
I don't know. Like, I've just been super careful with how I view this because it really, really resonates with me, and it's scary.
It can also backfire on you too, right? Like the whole, like if you're thinking of what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't know, like, these things, like, they are energy and they feel, but, like, you, at the end of the day, you're like, but I don't have textbook.
I don't have, like, solid evidence.
Yeah. It's just feelings, and you're, like, risking a lot by going off of how you feel, like.
But Stephanie and I have been feeling energy like crazy. Like, when you feel, I mean, energy's everything. Mm-hmm. Like, you give off energy. And I truly believe you can send energy to someone. And for those religious people, praying is literally sending energy to someone. Yeah. That's, like, when you pray for somebody, that is sending energy to them.
Yeah.
And so I truly believe that I have been receiving and sending energy. And I do to many people, but this one specific person, in a weird way where synchronicities like align us in crazy ways, and dreams will, like, signs from above, and like twin flame, like what is the word, where they reconnections,
rekindle.
You can like tell that they're coming close by like all of the weird synchronicities and the dreams and the energy that you feel, and like things pop up and you're just like, these could be coincidences, but there's a lot going on right now. Yeah. So I feel like I've encountered my twin flame. However, I know I'm young, and I feel like I'm not super educated enough to like solidly believe in this, or like solidly like say. But from my perspective right now, I'm like, everything that I'm reading and feeling and seeing and hearing is like, yes, bitch.
Yeah, no, whenever you sent me that thing, I was like, oh, wow. I mean, I feel like at this point, I've had 2 twin flames. Mm-hmm. As far as, like, relationships goes. Now, as far as friendships, I don't really know yet. Yeah.
I mean, soulmates, you'll have more soulmates than twin flames.
Okay.
I think it's more common to have one twin flame, but also most of the time, like,
Well,
or
then
half,
what's the difference between a soulmate and a twin flame?
it's the reflection of you, like who you are.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just like
You are
completely
so
mirrored.
many different people in your lifetime.
So this is where I'm like, this is a newer concept to me, and I really want to like listen to other people.
Yeah.
Because I don't know shit. Hopefully they do.
I just didn't know if you had like Googled stuff.
No, I mean, I've been listening. It's just like so like up to your interpretation. But twin flames don't always have to be romantic, and half the time they don't even end up together.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's like it's that one person that you're like,
Damn.
fuck.
Yeah. If I'm thinking about, okay, yeah.
Yeah, but I've talked to, like, I wouldn't call her a mentor, but she was almost my life coach. She's a super spiritual person, and I almost did, like, a life coaching program with her. And I was talking to her about twin flames, and her twin flame is one of her best friends from kindergarten. And I was like, so it's just completely random in who you believe is your twin flame, who you feel that with.
Cute.
But it's, like, it's so tough from my perspective right now, because I'm like, I'm only having this conversation and communicating and thinking about this myself because I'm no longer in contact with that person to openly talk and discuss this. You know what I mean? Like, I wish that I had like an opportunity to be like, do you believe in this? Because like, are you picking up what I'm feeling?
You should. I want to be like, you should reach out, but then I'm like thinking if I did that, I'd be like, I wouldn't do that.
So the best thing that you can do if you believe you have a twin flame is truly just work on yourself and raise your vibe. Like, that's the best thing that you could do for yourself and for your twin flame, and the universe will be like, cool, you trusted me. Here you go. And you'll probably run into them at some random fucking concert whenever we have those again. But you're like, huh? Like, you're here?
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, I'm not saying this person is for sure my twin flame, but like, I don't want to force anything with anyone. Like, I'm just like gonna work on myself and read and like really grow and dive into this spirituality thing because I'm so curious about it. And the universe is, and God, whatever, is gonna be like, oh my God, this is where you need to be. This is who I want you to be. You trusted me. Like, here's your partner that has been doing the exact same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's my take on twin flames. I would highly recommend looking it up. If you think you have one, you can look up like signs that you're about to reconnect. There's an article that I found like on one of like Google's first pages, and there was like 10 or 11 signs that you're about to reconnect with your twin flame, and I hit every single fucking one of them, like crazy accurate. And I ran into this person.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like
yeah.
on my angel numbers.
Wow. And then, yeah. Just gonna get into how, like, that happened with me recently, those little numbers, and I was just like, what is happening? Like, 1144 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My angel numbers are any repetition of 1 and 4. 1 means, like, new beginnings, and 4, I think, pertains to relationships.
Yep.
Yeah.
God. It's just so much to take in, because I'm, like, rethinking about everything. I'm like, oh, my God. Well,
is that it for our segment? That was a super long intro.
It was. I mean, you know, it's like, we back. You know, I don't even think we really introduced ourselves that well in the beginning, but
maybe another
people
time.
Know she's a model. She's a Lacey. Well, I guess like you're not just an influencer, and you're not just a model.
Yeah, dude, I don't know what.
You're just a personality.
What's my occupation? I don't fucking know.
I don't either. I just do photography and some interior design work, I guess. But, I mean, okay. But we're not done. We have a guest coming on. Because we really want to, like... I mean, the whole open relationship thing kind of, like, threw me for a spin. And I was like, I want to learn more about this. Like, I don't want to just, like... I don't want this person to say this to me and me not fully understand what they're talking about. So, I am diving in head first. And we have... Melissa Fabello coming on. She has a PhD in human sexuality, and she's polyamorous, and she has 2 partners, and she is incredible. So I'm really excited to kind of like talk to her and kind of tell her like our story, because like I just want to know like if you have, because to me when someone wants to be in an open relationship, they're just like not that into you. But apparently from what I've said that to people, they're like, no, that's not it at all. Some people just like aren't, some people just don't think like you. And but I cannot understand that, obviously. So like I want to know what the difference is in like open relationships and polyamory, and like what, like if you have deep connections with someone, why, like
Why add another?
why add someone else, and why not just grow so intensely with one person? And like,
Well, what if you have, I mean,
what if you have deep connections with multiple people?
yeah, I want to ask her how she really got into polyamory and figured out, hey, like, this is what I'm into.
With so many people, like, I wish.
Like, imagine having, like, a little triangle. Like, and you feel that connection. Everybody feels that equal connection with everybody.
Is that not polyamory at that point? Because polyamory, I feel like.
I thought that is polyamory.
But then what is open? Oh, okay. So this is like what we're. This is what we're doing, because like I'm so confused on the differences. But yeah, we're gonna bring Melissa on, and I'm excited. I feel like this was great.
This was a good
little intro.
You know, they're just gonna keep getting better, guys.
Yeah, we don't know what we're doing. But I'm so happy that Lacey's hosting this with me now, because
Commentary, baby.
I can't do it by myself. But okay, guys, we're gonna
see you in a second.
Well, yeah, we'll see you in a second. All right, bye. Hello.
Hi, hello, how are you?
Good, how are you? Wow, you look so
Good.
cool.
That's what I do. Just like look really cool all the time. No one's ever said that before.
You look cool. You just look interesting.
Sitting in my sweatpants.
Same. Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Ready for this year to be over.
Yes. Same.
30 more days.
30 more.
Yeah, we're getting there. It's very, very close, thank God.
Yeah, we are so thankful that you came on, because Brittany told us like so much about you, and I've loved like diving in and like learning more about like your platform and what you use it for, and I'm just so impressed by you. Like,
oh my God, that's so nice. I felt so bad. It was like such bad timing, because I started a social media break today. And so, Brittany was like, oh, I recommended you to these people, and they're going to check out your Instagram. And I was like, well, that sucks, because there's going to be nothing on it. They're going to be like, what are you talking about? This girl does nothing. But it's like, but I trust that like you gave them some information.
No,
who I am.
You did. And that's, she was like, well, you won't get like much social media out of it. I was like, I don't really care about any of that. I just want to learn about some stuff. And she said that you were like, you're an educator, and that's like what you are so good at. And I was just like, okay, good, because I'm so scared half the time that I feel like I can't even have the conversations that I even want to have with you with anyone else, just because I feel like I'm going to say the wrong thing and that people will like snap, or I'll get canceled, or like just something. And I'm like, so I just like don't even ask anymore. And but yeah, I mean, I've learned that you have a PhD in human sexuality, which we didn't even know.
I didn't know that was a study.
Well, it's actually the only PhD program in human sexuality in the world. So it's not really a thing. It's a very hard to come by thing. So
dang, okay, yeah. You were touching more on this.
I really want to get into eventually talking about your book, because it touches on anorexia and how it can affect your sexuality and sexual encounters. And I actually struggled with anorexia, and I've had to kind of explain to partners how that is kind of a part of me in some ways. So I'm interested to learn about that.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to explain, the idea that it's a thing that doesn't exactly go away, even if you're not engaging in behavior, Yeah.
And that's something that like I've never, I mean, I haven't dealt with that, but 2 of my best friends have, and like I've never been able to even communicate properly, like with one of my best friends when she's experiencing it, like even through pregnancy and stuff. And I'm just like, I don't even know. Again, I just like, just be quiet. Cause I'm like, I don't even know what to say. So, I thought that was another key point of view that was freaking awesome. And then also how open you are about, polyamory. And like, that's what really drew me to you, because we just had a whole hour-long conversation about relationships this year and connections, deep connections, and how I was in an experience with someone I had a really deep connection with, and they have never been in a relationship or committed to anybody, and we were kind of getting to that point of like, oh, like what's going on with us, and so I think he kind of got in his zone and was like, oh, well, I don't want to lie to you about what he's never committed. So he was like, what about open relationships? And I was just like, well, I don't think that we're in a relationship to open. So I just like, but I don't know anything about, because when I talked to Brittany about this, I was like, so open relationships, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, well, there's a difference between like open relationships and polyamory and ethical non-monogamy. And like, I would love if you could start and like just explain and like help us, educate us.
Yeah, that's
the world.
Yeah, it's confusing. It is. Yeah, it is a confusing thing. So yeah, we can talk about all those things.
Okay, cool. I mean, we have so many questions for you today. Like I've like just, I think we've been like kind of obsessing over you for like a week. And we've got
Wow, I feel you have notes. That's amazing.
So I guess like
just dive in and tell us a little bit about yourself and things that we should know about you.
Now we're ready.
Yes.
Oh God, I love and hate this question. Like, who are you? It's like, how do you distill your whole self into a paragraph? So my name is Melissa. I have a PhD in Human Sexuality Studies. I studied specifically how women with anorexia make meaning of their relationship to sensual touch. And wrote a book based on my dissertation research, which just recently came out. And then as an educator, I do a lot of education. I'm traditionally trained as an educator. My bachelor's and master's degrees are both in education, and I was a high school teacher for a while. And education is something that feels really important to me. And currently in my life, most of the education work that I do is online. At the end of the day, I really think of the work that I do. I write and I do consulting and I do social media stuff and I do workshops, and like all of those things to me fall under the broad category of education. And I kind of think of the work that I do as like political wellness education, because I'm very, very interested in various aspects of wellness. And a lot of that comes down to sex and relationships. I'm also very interested in like bodies and how we have relationships with our bodies, how our bodies move through like socio-political space. So really thinking about, how do we politicize wellness and how do we educate others in the ways in which our wellness is politicized is kind of, that's a good description of the work that I do.
Damn.
Wow. That was a good start. That was a good explanation.
And you're in Philadelphia right now, right?
Yes, I am.
How is it?
It's cold.
Okay.
It's
is everything pretty like going back into shutdown and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah, we're kind of moving more into we had new regulations come out maybe like 2 weeks ago or a week ago.
Okay.
So coming back into a more shutdown space. Not that it ever felt open, but it's coming back into a more of a shutdown space.
Did you grow up there?
No, I grew up in Boston.
Okay.
That's where I grew up. I went to high school in Maine. Fascinating.
Oh, I wanted to visit.
Visit. Don't live there, but visit. It's beautiful, but only ever visit in the summer. And then I went back to Boston for college, and then I moved to Georgia. And I was living in Georgia for a little while, and then I came to Philadelphia in I think 2011 to start grad school. Yeah, and then
whenever you were younger, like when did you start kind of like, I guess,
coming into your sexuality?
Into my own sexuality or like the concept of sexuality?
I guess both, if you have an answer for both.
Yeah, that's a good question. Sexuality is such an interesting thing. And I think, especially as a woman, as a queer woman, and, you know, other people who are more marginalized than me, also, like, the more overlapping marginalizations you have, that, like, your relationship to sexuality is really can get incredibly complex. And I think is complicated by the fact that, like, society doesn't want you to have a relationship to your sexuality. And I think that a lot of women, that their first kind of introduction to thinking about sexuality is often from someone else, is put onto them from somebody else. So whether that's experiencing childhood sexual abuse, or that's catcalling at a young age, or whatnot, that often sexuality is sort of, I feel like, almost stolen from us before we're even really given the opportunity to sit in what our sexuality is, and to think about it authentically, and thinking about it from a place that's, like, pure. It's often like healing from sexuality is our introduction to sexuality a lot of the time, which is really, really difficult. And yes, sexual violence plays a really huge role in people's lives who experience sexual violence, and that's most women, unfortunately. But I think my own, you know, kind of experiences with sexuality, like, kind of the first thing that I think about that comes to mind is when I learned the word bisexual, which was in, I think, the 7th grade, and that my best friend was trying to come out to me as bisexual. And she said to me, like, I need you to understand, like, I'm bisexual. And I was like, that's great. What is that? You know, and at the time she described it, you know, as we're kids and we don't really understand gender very well at the time, you know, she was like, oh, I like boys and I like girls. And I remember yelling on the bus, I'm that too. I was like, I had no idea that there was a word for this thing that I've been experiencing my whole life. And, you know, had been so confused for my entire childhood, being like, oh my God, like, I'm not gay, but, like, I don't just like boys. I don't know what's going on here. And being really confused. And I think about that moment because it's like, damn, like, if we gave people the language to understand what was going on for them, like, how much more authentic could we be showing up in our sexual experiences? And we're not given that. And I feel similarly around the stuff around non-monogamy, which I know we're going to be talking about, which is that I spent all of this time in my life practicing, if we want to name it nicely, non-consensual non-monogamy, which is just cheating. And my whole life, I cheated on almost every single partner I ever had. And then just would shame spiral about it. Like, oh, I'm such a bad person. I'm doing this thing that's unethical and, like, whatnot. And then, coming to realize that there's actually an entire way of being where you can just be allowed to explore romantic and sexual connections as they show up in your life. And it's just, like, if we weren't so sold on the scripts that we have, what more could we be? And, you know, what could we develop?
Oh, wow.
Wow, you're so well spoken. But everything that you said really hit me.
Yeah.
Like, the healing, instead of, it's like so more common that we're healing from our sexual experiences instead of, like, showing up, you know? I grew up in a super conservative hometown,
Same.
like super Christian Baptist small town, and I was always told to cover up and to, like, not have sex till marriage, or I would be considered a whore. Like,
she went on
sex and slut shaming was always such a big prominent thing in my life from such a young age, from doing nothing sexual at all.
Even, like, America's Next Top Model, like, boosted up that you were a virgin.
Yeah.
Like, America's Next Top Model, and they, like, she was this little virgin from Arkansas, and
right, that was, like, the story, the narrative that they gave you.
The story, man, and it made it a bigger deal
than it was.
Yeah, and it put it on this platform of, like, everything.
Well, now that's who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not just, like, a fact about you, or, like, just a little, you know, piece of information. It's now, like, this is how we conceptualize you.
That's how the public has seen me. That's how people know me. I'm, like, this good girl. And so
not comments about it too.
Like, honestly, this year have I really been trying to explore and step into my own sexuality and what that means for me and my comfort zones, and realizing, like, hey, like, if I want to wear lingerie and take pictures, that's not bad. That doesn't make me bad. That's what people always told me, you know, like, I don't believe that it's bad, but I was groomed to believe it was. And I don't want to, like, my sexual encounters with like men, I've always done what they've wanted to do when they've
Mm-hmm.
wanted to, because that's the way I've been groomed to do, is to please men.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm now realizing, like, no, like, I should want to do this for myself, not just because you want to, not just because you're horny, but because I want to. Like, I want to set boundaries for myself. So I'm like really stepping into just sexuality, like this department in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's a really common experience. I feel like if you ask 10 women, like, what do you like sexually? 9 of them are going to be like, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I talk a lot online too about like queer sex and how important for me in my life having sex that's queer has been really, really important to me, and is a really different experience in my experience having sex with like cis straight men, where when you're a woman, a cis woman having sex with, you know, cis straight men, like there's just a script. There's a script, and you follow the script and you do the thing that you're supposed to do. And like, you start here and then you do this and then you do this. It's like even the bases, right? Is like this really cis heteronormative idea of like, what does it mean to move along a sexual experience? And just how important it is to be having sex is completely outside of that norm. And that kind of the magic, I think, of queer sex is like, oh, we don't have a script. So what are we going to do? We have to talk about it. We have to talk about like, what does sex even mean? Right? Like, we're not really given a way to understand that. At what point have we had sex? Right? And like, we have to talk about what we like and what we want to do, because there isn't something to follow. And I find that the more I kind of talk about that, you know, like online, like it's usually like bisexual cis women who have only ever been in relationships with like cis men who are like, wait a minute, like there's like this whole new world of things that I can like do, and like kind of awakening this desire for sex that looks different from the sex that they've always been having, and realizing, oh, like I'm allowed to have things that I need, and I'm allowed to have wants, and I do have these fantasies, and I've never expressed to someone else this like kink that I have or whatever it is, because I'm embarrassed. And wow, so like we're all just sitting around having sex that we hate. What is the point? Like, why are we doing that? To please who?
Okay.
Wow. This is like really hitting
So
me.
I guess in case there's people out there, also myself,
Also myself. I had to look this up to myself.
I had to look up cisgender. Like, what is that exactly? Like, is that just like is that like straight person, or like what?
So we're separating gender and orientation. So our orientation is who we're attracted to. So who we're attracted to. I'm attracted to all genders. Some people are only attracted to one gender or whatever. And then our gender experience is how we identify what gender we identify with. And cis is basically just the opposite of trans. So people who are trans, who, let's say they're born and the doctor is like, oh, it's a girl based on like genitals. And then that girl, quote unquote, grows up and is like, actually, no, that's like not it. Like, I'm actually a boy. Then we would call that person trans. But so a cis person would be, oh, I was born and then doctor said I was a girl and I actually grew up feeling like a woman.
So
would we be cis?
Are you women with vaginas? Like, I don't know what kind of information you want to give me about yourselves. But I would say yes, probably. Okay. I would say generally, if you've never thought about it before, you're probably cis.
Okay, I think that's all right now. I think okay, cool. Damn, this is a lot. This is good. Okay, well, can you like, I guess, kind of start with like going into the differences, but like with polyamory and ethical non-monogamy, and like how that is with open, or like what
is there a difference?
Yeah, right. So we're basically talking about an umbrella. So monogamy, which is generally, we kind of understand it as, well, we don't really think about it usually because it's just, again, one of those scripts that we're just following. But monogamy is generally, I am in a committed romantic sexual relationship with one other person, and we are only each other's partners. That's what most people value. And ostensibly, or on the surface, what quote unquote most people practice. In reality, depending on the study that you look at, like 40 to 70% of people cheat on their spouse. Mm-hmm. So in reality, most people are not actually practicing monogamy. So non-monogamy would be anything that's not that. So non-monogamy would be anything that is, I have more than one romantic and or sexual partner at a time. And there's two, if you're kind of imagining almost like it's almost not like a family tree, but one of those kinds of graphs where it's like, okay, non-monogamy is at the top. And then there's non-consensual non-monogamy, which is I'm practicing non-monogamy, but nobody knows, which we call cheating. And then there's consensual non-monogamy, or what we would call ethical non-monogamy, which is I'm having these relationships and people know about it. Everybody involved knows. That's what the ethics is that everybody who is involved in this situation is aware of what's happening. There's different levels of awareness that people practice. Some people have like you can do whatever you want, but I don't want to know about it kind of, thing. Like there's different levels of awareness, but the idea that everybody knows that that is an arrangement. And then within ethical non-monogamy or consensual non-monogamy, there's different ways that people do those relationships. So an open relationship is generally like, and of course, different people define these things differently. So these are really broad kind of understandings, but like an open relationship would be, or an open marriage would be, we are in a relationship and we are allowed to have often sexual connections with other people, but not romantic connections with other people.
That's okay.
Yeah, is usually how people sort of understand that.
Okay.
And then like polyamory would be something more like we are forming romantic connections and maybe sexual connections that are just sexual, not romantic also, but like we are forming connections with however many people feels good to us or that's within our arrangement. But then even polyamory then has different forms of polyamory. There's like hierarchical polyamory, which is like you are my primary partner, you'd have more value, more safety, more security in this relationship, and then I'm having sex or having relationships with secondary partners who are important to me but less important to me than you are. And then there's tertiary partners that are less important than the secondary. You see what I'm saying? Like, so it's a hierarchy. And then there's also non-hierarchical polyamory, which is what I practice, which is a polyamory where there are multiple romantic and sexual connections that each hold equal value. So there's just like a lot of different, and then we can get all the way on the other, like really far, which is relationship anarchy, which is something I love and intend toward, but don't actively practice completely, which is like, fuck all of it. Like, and like we're not even calling a relationship a partnership and differentiating that from a friendship, because what's the difference? And we can have sex with our friends. And so why would we call that something else? And so just really kind of throwing it all out, like everything about the way that we understand relationships is unhelpful. And yet, and there's within that, there's so many different, there's like polyfidelity, which is like we're three people in a relationship, but we don't date outside, or, we're in a partnership and we each have another partner, but nobody is dating outside of that arrangement. There's like different ways to do it. And it's really just about, being really, really open and honest about what you need.
And communicating and setting boundaries and like, yeah.
Does it take a lot of communication?
What I think is interesting about that idea is, don't all relationships take a lot of communication?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes when we're talking about monogamy, there's sort of this like, sometimes people get this idea that like, oh, that's easy because we're just doing the thing. And then you'll ask people, have you guys defined, or have you people defined what cheating is in your relationship? Have you defined what commitment looks like for you? Have you defined, and people be like, oh no. And so it's like, well, you haven't talked about anything then. Like the communication that is necessary for your relationship to be healthy and to thrive isn't happening. And so I think with non-monogamy, the issue is more that because there's multiple people involved, you have no choice but to communicate about all of those things, because otherwise people are going to get very hurt, and now it's not ethical anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, people get hurt and that's life. But like if you're doing things that are not kind, then we're getting into a place where maybe it's not ethical. I think what's more difficult is less like, oh, I'm choosing to do this thing and I'm making my life hard. I think what's more difficult is that the world is not set up for you to do that thing very easily. Like even this super simple, I remember my brother, bless him, my brother one time asked me, if someone were inviting you to a wedding, because I have two partners, and was like, if someone was inviting you to a wedding, do they have to give you a +2? And I was like, well, that's actually a perfect example of how normalized monogamy is, that you only get a +1. Why?
Oh,
You know what I mean?
wow.
So so the world makes it kind of more difficult to do the thing, because even quarantine has been a brilliant example. I'm very fortunate that I basically split time between 2 houses that are like 5 blocks apart. So it's like very easy for me to go back and forth. But when quarantine goes into effect, it's like you have to you can only interact with the people that you live with. And for most people, the people that they live with is like their family. It's whether it's, you're a child and you're living with parents, or, it's an extended family home, or it's like I have a partner or a spouse that I live with and we have kids or whatever. That's how most people seem to understand. And the idea is you should be okay only interacting with those people because those people are the top tier kind of priority of your life. But that's not actually how everyone operates.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of like structurally made very, very difficult actually to practice non-monogamy, and particularly in a non-hierarchical way, because the way that the world is structured is based on monogamy.
Yeah.
So what about like whenever I have no idea if you want kids or whatever, but when that comes into effect with people, if you've seen that, what happens there? Like, how does the normalized world, like, versus this more broad, like, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I think something that I like ask people to think about too is like, are there other examples of ways that families are complicated? So, for example, one of my partners has kids with an ex who lives in Los Angeles, and so the kids live with the ex. And so whether we were polyamorous or not, we would have a complicated thing about a past relationship, someone that, that obviously has some kind of a relationship with, and they have children. So there's already sort of a complicated thing. And I think it's also can be true that in families, maybe you're in a relationship and you have kids in that relationship, and one partner has custody of the kids, and then you start a relationship with someone else who has kids. And there's all sorts of ways that can be complicated. And I don't think it's unique to polyamory. I think what's more unique maybe to polyamory is having conversations about which partners you want to have children with. So there's actually this really interesting and cool like activity, I guess, that you can look into, or like model or framework called Relationship Anarchy Smorgasbord. I like to just call it buckets because it's a lot easier. But basically the idea is if you're practicing something like relationship anarchy, which is, like I said, like there's no rules, and instead every 2 people, whether that's friends, partners, whatever, every 2 people are going to decide what they want their relationship to look like. And so then it's basically thinking our relationship is a bucket. What do we want in our bucket? Do we want sex in our bucket? Do we want children in our bucket? Do we want a domestic life together? Is that in our bucket? What do we want to take out of the bucket? Like what do we like not, or even, I have one partner who we don't have a sexual relationship. And so we just have a romantic relationship, not just, but that's our relationship. And so it could be like, well, we can actually take this out of the bucket. There's no reason why we have to have sex just because we're partners. We can actually take it out of the bucket entirely, right?
Wow.
Still be in love. Like that's irrelevant. And so, so I think the conversation is like, who do I want to have children with? Often, most people practice non-monogamy in some kind of hierarchical way where they have like a life partner and then they're having other relationships. And so a lot of people would be like, that is a person I would live with. That is a person I would marry. That is a person I would have children with. And they wouldn't necessarily consider doing those things with other people. But you could.
Yeah. Wow.
That's
I like that. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to have sex with you, but I love you.
I've ended so many relationships in my life because I was like no longer sexually interested in someone.
Yeah.
Like, well, guess we don't love each other. And like, that's ridiculous. Like once I realized that like, actually that doesn't have to be what it is. Like, especially as a person with sexual trauma, like it makes total sense that like sex can be complicated. There are people, there's asexual people who don't have sex at all. That doesn't mean that they can't be in committed relationships.
Yeah.
And so I think, once we start, I think the thing that's funny about non-monogamy is like, once you question one thing, everything becomes a question. And it's like, wait, nothing is real.
Like limitless. It's super freeing too.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first polyamorous experience, and how was that for you?
That's a good question because, like I said, I'd been practicing non-consensual non-monogamy basically my whole life. So I've had a lot of experiences throughout my life of loving multiple people at a time.
Yeah.
And having relationships with multiple people at a time. One of my current partners and I had been in a monogamous relationship and had decided not to do that anymore. But that was a long conversation. I think it was put on the table because as a bisexual person, so this partner is a non-binary person. And as a bisexual person attracted to multiple genders, something that I noticed that I miss a lot in my life if I don't have it is relationships with women. And I had expressed to this person like, oh, like here's a thing that like I miss in my life. And they were just like, okay, so do you want to like additionally have a girlfriend? And I was like, what? No. Like I was like, how would you even ask me that? Like no, I'm just saying I'm sad. Like, what are you talking about? And then that's how it got on the table.
So
and then over
to it.
Yeah, they were very much like,
wow.
That was like their first response. Like they were just like, is that what you need? And I was like, what?
Wow. What a safe space.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it wasn't, it was unexpected. I expected support. I didn't expect that much support. And so I guess, and then like over like the course of like a year, we had kept talking about it, and we kept talking about like the politics of it, because I think the politics of monogamy are troubling because there's this idea that like you belong to me. It's even the way we talk about like my other half and like the one and like that kind of language is like kind of bizarre. And there's sort of this idea of ownership. I mean, that at the end of the day is what marriage is it's property. Historically is like what it's been. And it's, you belong to me. You have to meet all of my needs, which is absurd. You have to meet every need that I ever have. I don't need anything else. You're my top priority. And so we just started talking about like politically, it didn't feel valuable to us, monogamy as a concept. And so, so we decided to practice non-monogamy, and it has evolved because our original, and a lot of people when they get into non-monogamy or try to do it with like a monogamous, like edge to it. We are like setting all these rules, like setting a whole bunch of boundaries so that you feel safe. And I get why we do that. Like we want to feel secure and we want to feel like people aren't going to leave us. But at the end of the day, monogamous or not, people can leave you. So it's like trying to keep someone is not like a good reason to set boundaries. And we had been very, very boundaried. And then over time kind of like developed into just a different space with it and like started to feel safer with it and kind of, allowed for more spaciousness around how we engage in relationships with other people. And so I'm still in that relationship. And we, over the course of now, however long it's been, a few years, have been in other relationships. I've mostly been in like very short-term things that like haven't at the end of the day worked out until I started dating my other partner. And then my original used to be monogamous partner has a long-term partner also. So we both now are in like long-term partnerships with other people.
Do you interact with his partner, and does he interact with your other partner, or are they separate?
We interact, and I would like hang out with their partner alone. Like I would have no problem doing that. Okay. I haven't, but like I would.
So is it you and then a partner? Mm-hmm. And the partner that lives 5 blocks down that you were in a monogamous relationship with.
All right. So there's 2 partners. They have names. This might make it easier.
I know. I didn't know if you wanted to say names.
That's okay. There's my partner, Imran. Imran, I have been in a relationship with now for 6 years.
Okay.
Imran has another partner named Caroline.
Okay.
And both Imran and Caroline also engage in other relationships.
Are you very involved with Caroline at all?
Caroline, no. Okay. I know her. She stays at this house sometimes. We've gone out to dinner a couple of times. Or like sometimes she's come and like Imran hasn't been able to be home. And so I've just hung out with Caroline while she was here waiting for Imran or like whatever. So like we follow each other on social media. We have each other's phone numbers. Like sometimes we'll text each other something like, or whatever, but like we don't have like a deep, connection, but we are connected.
Okay.
And then my other partner, Tristan, lives about 5 blocks away. And Tristan doesn't currently have any other partners, but does have an ex-wife and children. So that is some type of connection that is maybe relevant. Yeah. And Imran and Tristan have some like interactions. Again, like, well, like my birthday party, like they're gonna be there, you know, not that I'm having a birthday party this year, but you know, like, they would, you know, be in the same room, or like they can talk, or like they might send each other. They had planned my last birthday party together, you know, like, and then also Tristan and Caroline have some interaction, like not a whole lot, but some interaction.
Wow. Okay.
Do you ever deal with jealousy, or do parties get jealous?
Yes. So I love the conversation about jealousy because this question comes up all the time. And it's so interesting because it's like asking someone if they've ever been sad, you know, like jealousy is a normal human emotion. So like we should be feeling it. Like hopefully if we are like emotionally full people, you know, and like feeling our emotions authentically, we're experiencing jealousy as the myriad, you know, part of a myriad of human emotions that we have. I think what comes up in non-monogamy is less that there's not jealousy and more that there are different tools and frameworks for dealing with that jealousy. So like the framework itself being like, I feel jealous, but why? Sometimes is what comes up. Like I feel jealous, but like what is coming up for me when I feel jealous? Is it that I feel like we're not spending enough time together? Is it that I feel uncomfortable with the fact that you're texting someone else on our date? Like, and can I express that? Like, is that a boundary that I want? Like, oh, when we're on a date night, I don't want to talk to other partners or something like that. And so, yeah, the framework aspect of it. And then there's just the tools of like, because you're talking so much already about what your boundaries are, what your desires are, what your needs are, there's just more room to be like, hi, I felt jealous about this thing. You know, literally my partner Tristan actually just asked me today, you know, he had said that he was interested in going on a date and was like, hey, how would you feel about that? And I was like, that sounds great. Like, you know, do that. And then I was texting him just recently and was like, oh, I'm feeling really needy. Like, I need you to tell me about how much you love me. And he was like, are you feeling insecure? And I was like, yes. So then he was just like, great. When you're done recording your podcast, I will call you and I'll tell you how much I love you. Like, is kind of how it ends up. Whereas in monogamy, it would just be like, I don't like that person. That person makes me jealous, so don't talk to them ever again. Which is like, do we get to have control over other people's connections like that? I literally saw a tweet just the other day. I like retweeted it and was like, imagine being straight. It said something like, it was like, should married men and women be allowed to have friendships with people of the quote unquote opposite sex? And I was just like, I can't fathom being in a mindset where I would think that that was ever appropriate to be like, you can't be friends with women. That's wild to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe especially as a bisexual person, I'd be like, so I don't get to be friends with anyone, is what you're saying. Like, I can't be friends with I cannot have friends then. If you're saying I can't be friends with any of the genders I'm attracted to, I would be alone.
It makes me feel like, it's so like it weighs you down. Like
I don't like it now.
It's like it feels super restricting. Like someone else is controlling you based off of their insecurities, jealousies, and comfort zones, and like is what like you can't have friends or like you know. So I'm like.
I don't know about all that. Yeah.
I'm like thinking about this person like this open relationship conversation with me, and now I feel stupid for being like so like close-minded and stuff. But also I don't know, because like it's just not, I just new for me, you know? So
well, and I think something that's important too about monogamy, because I think monogamy is a totally valid choice that some people are like, that's just what I want in my life. And I don't think that's bad. What I think it's complicated is that we actually often aren't choosing monogamy. We're just doing it because it's what we have a map for. And it's because it's all we've ever seen. And it's all we've ever talked about. And like I said, all of the structures are set up so that is what you have to do.
Yeah.
And I think that to sit down and be like, okay, wait, like, could things be different? How would that look for me? Like, what do I need?
Yeah.
and then to come to a conclusion of like, actually, I think monogamy is the right choice for me, I think is really different from just being like, yeah, that's what I do, and I've never considered anything else ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, what is like what's a huge misconception that people have with polyamory, and like what you kind of wish people would understand more about it?
I think one thing that comes up a lot around it is that it's just about sex,
Mm-hmm.
which it's not. Like, you can be polyamorous and be asexual. Like, that's a possibility, you know? And so I do think that there's sometimes this idea that it's a purely sexual thing, and that there's something kind of like promiscuous about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think something else that comes up a lot actually is like the whiteness of how polyamory is like portrayed in the world and in the media. It's a lot easier to find people who are white, who are willing to talk about it, who are considered experts on it, and like, etc. When like in reality, all kinds of people, you know, regardless of gender, race, orientation, are practicing. So I think that's another kind of like misconception. Yeah, those are some big ones. I think too, like we already kind of talked about jealousy, but I think the like idea that like non-monogamous people are somehow so evolved as to not feel jealousy is like another lie. You know,
Yeah.
I think we fall for.
Okay. Dang, this is just so like, this is great.
Yeah, I am loving this conversation.
Yeah, like
So,
this is good.
We wrote down unicorn hunting. Is
Yeah.
that a thing? What is
Unicorn hunting is a thing.
What is
Unicorn
it?
hunting is a thing, and it's usually not great. I actually wrote an article for Self magazine about unicorn hunting one time, about how to do it ethically. And so unicorn I can't even say the word. Unicorn hunting is usually what it is a couple, usually, not always, but usually a couple made up of like a cis straight man and a like cis bisexual woman who are interested in having a third, usually another cis bisexual woman, join their relationship in some way, shape, or form, often purely sexual. This is not always how it's set up, but that's how it's often set up. It's like, hey, we're in a relationship, we want to spice things up, let's have a threesome. That the problem with it is that is inherently objectifying and inherently dehumanizing to the third person. So there's this thing in non-monogamy that we talk about called couple privilege, which is because, like I said, a lot of non-monogamy is being practiced from a hierarchical standpoint. There's this idea that like this couple is the most important thing to protect. Like, especially if it's like we're married, the most important thing to us is our marriage. And so if anything threatens the marriage, we have to veto that and get rid of it. That is not an ethical way to treat another person.
Yeah.
So the thing that gets forgotten sometimes is that whatever third party we're talking about is a full, complex human being who has feelings and who has needs. And they are not a sex toy that you just bring into the bed every once in a while to make your relationship more fun. There are lots of people who are self-identified unicorns who are like, I am more than happy in an ethical situation to engage with couples, and are really pumped to do that. So it's not like it's a wrong thing to like desire or to participate in, but the way that it often shows up is very kind of, I think, dehumanizing and very much like treating. And I think the other thing that happens too, like as a bisexual woman who is not interested in being a unicorn, constantly being approached by unicorn hunters and feeling like, is that all I am? Like, is that how you conceptualize like bisexual women? Is that we're just super sexually available for whatever you want? And that is hurtful to like, I think often a lot of bisexual women tend to be very uncomfortable with the idea of like unicorn hunters in general. Because it's often, people can be very pushy, they can be rude, they can be, they'll do these weird things, like they'll hide the fact that they're a couple and like spring it on you later. You'll think you're just talking to a woman, and then she'll be like, also, I have a boyfriend. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't sign up for that. Like you can't, that's not something you spring on someone.
Where did the term unicorn come from?
Because it's so hard to find.
Oh.
That it's so difficult to find that a bisexual cisgender woman who wants to have sex with two people at a time in a couple situation, like that it's so hard to find that it's basically like looking for a unicorn.
Wow. We touched on this a little bit
When? I can't remember.
in our podcast earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I know people that do that, and I've never have heard it put like this, and I don't know their process, but they for sure do
They
that.
they interview people, right? Or something?
Yeah. And it's exactly the scenario that you described, like man, woman, newly bisexual woman, both of their sexual desires is threesomes with another woman. They have a dating app together, and they'll talk to the girl. They'll take them out to like coffee and get to know them and kind of understand each other, the boundaries, what they're going through. And the unicorn wants to be the unicorn, and they make dinner. It's like a whole thing.
I feel so sheltered. It's so like, okay, like I just feel like there's so much that I don't know. Now I feel ridiculous.
Yeah, well, the whole world is out there.
Oh my God.
It's so cool when you just really take the limitations and the scripts and the groomings and the conditionings and just go, fuck it.
Yeah.
And you're like, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Because I actually think, speaking of the unicorn hunter situation, I think another thing that can be kind of unethical about it is that not often, I shouldn't say that, sometimes there's a situation where, let's say, a woman is in a relationship with a man. She's only ever been in relationships with men. She's like deep into this long-term committed relationship with a man and suddenly realizes, oh my God, I'm bisexual. And will be like, babe, I'm bisexual. And the only way she's allowed to explore that is if he's involved. And that's not ethical. Like it's ethical in the terms of like if everybody agrees to it, like, and that's what everyone is agreeing to. But the question is that actually her desire? So we get back to this thing that we're talking about, which is like, do women get to voice their desires? Because there's also arguably, if we're talking about, like I was saying before, about like queer sex, for example, as like a concept, two queer women having sex for the enjoyment of a straight man, how queer is it actually? Are you actually having the sex that you would want, because when I think about, for example, sex that I've had with women, it looks a relatively particular way that is not how it looks in like pornography.
That's what I've heard.
And so if there was like a man, like a cis man with a penis, involved, it would look very different probably based on what he wants, based on what he conceptualizes lesbian sex to look like, based on pornography. And so now we're actually having sex for the male gaze, which makes it not queer anymore. So now I'm not even having the queer experience I want to be having. So it's like, that's another way in which I think it can sometimes be unethical, is the man being like, yeah, you can explore that so long as I'm involved. But then she's not actually having her needs met.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
What? Okay. Wow.
It gets complicated. And I think that that's the reason why like those conversations are so important, because I also don't want a blanket statement and say all unicorn hunters are like fucked, like, and they're terrible things or anything like that. But I do think that there are these systems, these structures that are in place that we've all kind of internalized, and that we will act from these kinds of scripts without questioning them. And when it comes down to that thing that we kind of opened with about female desire, like if female desire is being stunted and is not being explored authentically and truly and honestly, how true are the desires that are being expressed?
Yeah. What would you suggest for someone that's like interested in that?
So I have an answer, but it's sort of it's a layered answer.
Okay.
So I think a good starting point, and I guess I just want to emphasize starting point, is a book called More Than Two. The reason why I think it's a good starting point is because it's very thorough. It isn't perfect. It isn't as thorough as it could be, but I do think it's very thorough in talking about the ways in which people can practice non-monogamy and polyamory in particular, in ways that are ethical. And it offers a lot of grounded examples from like the author's lives. And it also has a lot of like questions for reflections and kind of like ways to talk to your partner about stuff, which I think is useful. There's a couple problems with that book. The most glaring one being that one of the authors was accused of abuse. The people who the survivors of that abuse have specifically said that they don't call for like a moratorium on his work, which is why I still would generally recommend the book. I would say if you want to get that from a library or secondhand, so you're not giving him money, that would be smart. That's one problem. Another problem with the book is it's written by two white people. A lot of the, most common books that people recommend about polyamory, like The Ethical Slut is another one, are written by white people, which causes problems. Obviously, there's a Black man, Kevin Patterson, who wrote a book called Love's Not Colorblind, which is about race and polyamory, which can be good supplemental material. So yeah, I think that's, those are kind of probably the two biggest issues that show up. There's also maybe a third issue, which is that a lot of the conversations that happen about polyamory come from an assumption of secure attachment. Now, this is a whole new conversation to be having, but there's like a psychological theory around how we attach to people based on how we were cared for in our infancy and our childhood. And securely attached people generally had a caretaker in their life when they were young, who took care of them, who showed up for them when they cried, etc. And securely attached people tend to experience less problems in polyamory because they form relationships with adults in ways where they feel safe. And so it's a little bit easier to then feel safe in a relationship and then have another relationship where you feel safe, or have another relationship where you feel safe. And people who are insecurely attached, and that's a lot of people who've experienced trauma, have a lot more trouble with polyamory. And that's often not addressed in the polyamory literature. So that's like just another, ways in which that book, which I think is a great starting point, misses the mark in some places. With the attachment stuff, there's actually a new book that just came out called Polysecure that I actually just finished, which is specifically about polyamory and attachment, which is also, regardless of your attachment style, can also be interesting, like supplemental material that also has questions and stuff in it.
I'm the avoidant, dismissive attachment style.
Mm-hmm.
And my last partner was anxious attachment, and it was pretty hard. It was like,
it's a really difficult.
I was leaning.
Yeah, it's hard. And I think too, if we don't know about our attachment styles, and if we're not working with them, there's obviously a lot of positive things that come out of, like, let's say if you're like avoidant, you tend to be really boundaried, which can be really good, really independent, which can be really good. And if you're anxious, you tend to be, very like emotionally aware, which is really good. And like, I think, and being able be comfortable with your needs, which is really, really good. And so I think kind of working with that while also being aware of the ways that our attachment can show up with another person, that might be hard for them. I think that's important stuff to think about. Most people just aren't thinking about it.
Yeah. I want to touch on your book, Appetite, just because that really kind of resonated with me a little bit. So if you can share your experience, and I'm assuming your experience is in the book as well.
Yes, a little bit. So I did my dissertation research to get my PhD. I did it on women with anorexia and how they make meaning of their sensual experiences. So things like
did
touch,
you yourself go deal with anorexia?
Yeah. So I specifically decided to study this thing because I am very interested in eating disorders and the politics of bodies in general. And obviously I was getting a degree in sexuality, so I wanted to combine those in some way. And I originally wanted to do research that just kind of was like old research redone with like updated DSM criteria. But in doing that research, something that I discovered that was, as a sexologist, really baffling was that a lot of the conversations that clinical psychologists were having with this population around sex was based on a very, very narrow understanding of sex. It was basically like penis and vagina intercourse is what sex is. I was like, but wait, no one is asking about other kinds of touch. And what is true, or what the research shows, is that women with anorexia tend to have avoidant relationships to sex, immature relationships to sex, tend to be uninterested in sex, or very kind of avoidant of sex. And I was like, okay, cool. But like, do those people like to be cuddled? Like, why aren't we asking that? Do those people like to hold hands? Do they like, and do they like hugs? Like, I feel like we're not asking questions that could be useful. So I decided to study that. And I decided to study women with anorexia because it's an experience that I identify with. And I thought that doing like the intra-community kind of research of like people like me would be powerful and useful. It was also where the most research existed, for better or for worse, on sex, because it's a really, really small kind of amount of research on eating disorders and sex. It was just useful to look into that population specifically. And really, mostly what I found was that, yes, actually, this population is interested in other forms of touch, which I feel like is really important if you're talking about something like, you know, some kind of intervention or like sex intervention, like sex therapy for like folks who have had eating disorders, particularly folks who have had anorexia, that it feels like it would be useful to know that like, oh, maybe they don't want to be touched in an explicitly sexual way, but like they do enjoy touch in these other ways maybe, which could be good information to have. So yeah, so I ended up, I feel really strongly kind of against academia, which is like, I know it sounds ridiculous because I have a PhD, but I think that academia is a really, really harmful institution. I think it's a very oppressive institution. And one of the ways that that shows up is you basically do research for other researchers. That's kind of how the research world works. It's written in a way that nobody else can read. It's, it shows up in journals that nobody else reads. It's, you know, information given at conferences that no one else attends. And I think that's really not great. So I had always planned on centering my research on the people on the ground, like people, women with anorexia, I feel like are the people who need the information more than anybody else. So it was never my goal to finish my dissertation and then publish in academic journals. And so what I did instead was I wrote an ebook. I like created an ebook based on my research. So I took the research and I rewrote it so that it was easier to understand. And published it as an ebook. And then Routledge, which is like a major academic press, wanted to pick it up. And so they picked it up and they published it in paperback and hardcover, which, which is like really, really exciting. But that's how that came about, was because I had done this research and was interested. But yeah, the book is basically a kind of very comprehensive like survey of how sexuality shows up for women with anorexia. So we talk about identity, which includes, you know, orientation and gender identity and stuff like that. We talk about intimacy, so like emotional closeness, disclosure of things like eating disorders, stuff like that. You know, sexual violence. So like, how does sexual violence show up for this population? Just a lot of different aspects of it. And then, obviously including the aspect of sensual touch, which was the central focus of my dissertation. But so I think for anyone who either is a person with like particularly a woman with anorexia, or partnered with someone who either has had anorexia or currently is struggling, I think it can be a really useful. I just consistently get the feedback from people that were like, I thought I was broken, and then I read this and realized that my experience is actually really normal for what I've experienced in my life.
I mean, this is hitting me like so hard right now, because I had anorexia when I was in high school, and I'm only 23. So it wasn't that long ago. And my most recent relationship that I just got out of, sex was always a very hard thing for us, because he was always wanting sex more than I was willing and wanting to give. And I just thought that I had low libido, and it was hard, because me not wanting to have sex with him was hitting his confidence, and he thought something was wrong with him. And I was like, I just don't want to. And then I would have to explain to him, hey, when I'm not feeling confident in my body, or if I just ate, like, I don't want to show my body. Like, I don't want to have sex with you. And it was just like it was a hard thing. And so I'm like super curious to read this, because I am probably still carrying some of that stuff with me.
Yeah, well, because what's interesting is it's also like a lot of, in academia, we call it a mediating factor. Like, A is true and C is true, but it's like mediated by B kind of thing. It's a lot of mediating factor stuff that I think shows up. So it's like body image, for example, is a huge one. It's like people with anorexia tend to have poor body image. Yeah. And it's the poor body image that makes them not want to have sex, Or there's people with anorexia tend to be avoidant in general. And so maybe it's the avoidance aspect of it that makes it hard for them to explore intimacy with other people. Or sexual violence is another big one, that a lot of people have had eating disorders, have experienced sexual violence, and maybe it's the PTSD from the sexual violence that makes them not want, not be as interested in sex. And so there's all of these ways in which there can be this like middle thing that just connects it all together. That's really, I think, or like anorexia is highly comorbid with depression. And like depression is often the thing. Like, so it's interesting to look at all of the various ways in which it can show up. But yeah, the idea of like, I still carry it with me is like, I might not be engaging in eating disorder behavior. Like I might be like in my body healthy. But there's all this other stuff that is maybe related that is creating a difficulty with sex. Yeah.
Whoa, that hit me. I'm like excited to read it because I truly thought that I just didn't have like a high sex drive.
And that could also be true, right? And that's also valid.
I mean, that could still be a thing.
Yeah, and I also want to validate that some people have low sex drives or none, and that's also fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that aspect of like, oh, I thought that something was wrong, or I've been told consistently that something is wrong, which is also so disempowering to have people tell you there's something wrong with you. It's like, again, going back to that conversation about women and sex, which is like women are just always told that no matter how we behave or what we want, it's somehow wrong if it's not what our male partners want. If you want a really fun fact, the concept of sexual dysfunction was born. So sexual dysfunction, which is a messed up term, but sexual dysfunction includes like our relationship to desire, our relationship to arousal, our relationship to orgasm, like whether or not we experience those things normatively. But sexual dysfunction as a concept was actually created, I can't even have to say this out loud, by the idea that cis women's bodies don't do the same things that cis men's bodies do. And cis men's bodies were considered the norm. And so anything that didn't do that was called sexual dysfunction.
Our world isn't
that wild?
It's just ran and filtered and made for men.
Exactly. It's such a perfect example of that. It's like, if you don't experience arousal the way that like, a man with a penis does, then something's wrong with you. Instead of being like, well, how does this group of people experience arousal, experience desire, experience orgasm? And maybe that's the thing that we need to be looking at actually. And then comparing that, whatever that normative thing is to other people. So it's just such a good example of how easy it is for men to be like, something's the matter with you. And to be like,
yeah.
Oh yeah. My last partner wanted me to go to sex therapy almost immediately.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And I was like, I just don't want to. I just like, nothing's wrong. Like, I just
right.
don't
Well,
want
like isn't that the interesting thing? Because even when you're talking about something like sexual dysfunction, it doesn't count as dysfunction if it doesn't bother you. If you go into like a sex therapist and you're like, I'm experiencing sexual dysfunction, I can't orgasm. And they're like, are you distressed by that? And you're like, no, my partner is. That's not sexual dysfunction. Like, you have to be distressed by the thing. So if you're like, I don't want to have sex, but it's bothering my partner that I'm not having sex, like that's not something that's wrong with you. That could just be a mismatch in the relationship.
Holy shit. I'm so glad I had this conversation with you for so many different reasons.
I hope you feel validated, because there really is that sense of, I mean, it is true the way that like men, I mean, I've had so many, like cis women tell me like, I mean, so many that it's disturbing, tell me my partner says that my vulva is ugly and something's wrong with it. And it's like, it's probably fine. There's probably nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And that someone would say that to you is wild. Like there's like the point at which you think a thing, and then there's the point at which you say it out loud to someone else. Like, your body is ugly, is beyond. And so many, like, I know I've heard so many young women like express like, I'm ashamed of what my vulva looks like because I was told that it was ugly.
Wow.
I mean, I'd be like looking at men like this now.
Right, exactly.
I feel like my mind opened up a little bit more tonight.
Yeah, I feel like I understand the situation that I had just come from more, and I have a little bit more respect for it. And that's kind of what I was hoping for, because I wanted to go into this being like, I felt one way And I've just been so wrong about so many things. So I just was like, maybe I can speak to someone that, you know, like knows so much about this and come out of it looking at it differently. And it's exactly what happened. And I'm happy about that. Thank you for.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's so good. I'm so glad.
Listened. And well, I guess, like you said, after your podcast, you'll get to, I can't remember his name, but he's going to call you, right? And
tell me about how much he loves me. Yes.
Yes. Are you a Pisces?
I'm not, but my Tristan is.
I am too. Well, you said your thing says crybaby on it.
Oh, this is actually his.
Okay.
I stole it. He's a Pisces.
I wonder if she's a Pisces because
he's a Pisces and he feels very, very strongly about it.
I do too.
I think yes. I strongly identify with my own sign also.
What is your sign?
I'm a Capricorn.
I'm a Capricorn. Pisces and Capricorns are best friends.
I really think that they work really well together. But when is your birthday then?
December 26th.
Oh, okay. Wow. I'm a January Capricorn, but
what is your birthday?
The 10th.
Okay.
All my friends are on the 9th, 10th, 11th.
Oh, that's wild.
Wow. Except for
a good 3 days.
Yeah. I'm always like jam-packed those 3 days.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Yeah, well, it's also, it's interesting. I find that most of my friends are either Virgos because they're basically Capricorns or Cancers because they're exact opposite.
Yeah.
And so July and September, I'm like, fuck, I have so many gifts I have to buy. Like, it's so stressful to me. Like the rest of the year, I have basically no friends. And then, Cancer and Virgo season hit, and it's like, shit.
I have a lot of Cancer friends.
Mine sucks because it's right after Christmas, and I'm like, I have to get y'all another gift?
Yeah.
That is the thing that does suck about Capricorns. I mean, I'm sure you've also experienced, especially because your birthday's so close to Christmas, joint gifts.
Yep.
Which I'm like, that's not fair.
That's not fair.
I know. I'm like
I feel like my birthday's like a good 2 weeks after Christmas, so I just end up with people being like, shit, I have to buy you another gift.
Sales are not going on right now.
Yeah, that's how I am with like all my friends. I'm like, okay, but
yeah, it's not an ideal time, that's for sure. Or I experience, I'm sure, it's probably worse for you being right after Christmas, but like I experience like fatigue. Because it'll be like Christmas, New Year's, and then I'm like, hey guys, you want to hang out for my birthday? And
yeah.
Like, no. It's like, we're tired. Like, that's a bad time to have a birthday.
That's so true.
They're like, we've been drinking a lot.
Yeah, right. They're like, I am tired.
All the New Year's resolutions.
Right, exactly. I forget about my own birthday. It's not until like January 3rd that I'm like, fuck, my birthday's next week. I'm like, I don't have a plan. I've been so busy.
People always ask me, they're like, what do you do for your birthday? And I'm like, I've never done anything. Like, it's always just like, I don't know, I'm with my family.
Yeah, it's like,
should we do something?
You should, because I feel like that's right. I dated a woman a couple of years ago who, hilariously, her name is Holly, and she was born on Christmas. And that's why they named her that. But like, just, being like, wow, that sucks. Like, that sucks that your birthday's Christmas. like, you get nothing. Like,
oh my God.
The ultimate shit time to have a birthday. But in any case, Capricorns are great. Pisces, you're all right. Cry a lot, but
I've learned this year through dating, especially, that I am such an emotional person, and I've had to, with therapy, learn how to reel it in some, because not reel it in. I love feeling all my emotions, but to exert them on people, I've like learned to just like manage that a lot, and it's been nice because I get to ride the waves of my emotions and like not be too much for people sometimes. But I love being a Pisces, so I love the whole emotional aspect of it. It's just, yeah. You know.
I think that's good. I think being an earth sign is basically just not having emotions. And so like, that's like a total opposite problem, people being like, let's cry. I mean, like, let's not. Like, why are we going to do that?
I do that alone?
Yeah. It's like, I do that alone because I do everything alone. And if you want to schedule in a time for us to do something like that, I will put you in a calendar. We can plan it. But like,
I'll color code it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it'll be really organized, and we have exactly 47 minutes, and then we have to stop this. I have something else to do.
Well, thank thank you again so much. Seriously, I can't wait to put this out there and educate everybody else on this kind of stuff. So
yeah, definitely. Whenever links exist, like send them to me. If it doesn't go up, until if it goes up while I'm on social media break, I'll share it when I get back. So
cool. Either way, I'm just so happy that you did this, and I'm so happy to have met you. And I guess I'll keep you posted everything. But again, thank you so much. And then everyone, if you're listening, follow Melissa on everything, Twitter, website. Say your website one more time.
It's melissafabello.com.
Cool. And we're gonna link that, her book, everything. And yeah, thank you, Melissa, for coming on.
You are so welcome.
Listened this far if you made it. But yeah. But okay, well, you have a good night, and
thank you too.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy end of 2020.
Yes, that's the only holiday that I need.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let me know if you need anything in the meantime. But yeah, it was nice to meet y'all.
I will for sure. Thank you again, and have an awesome night.
Yeah, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.